Hi guys, it's Matt. Welcome to the video. I am a compulsive gambler in recovery and I'm your mind and movement mentor here to help you. So today I want to talk about how do you know if you are a gambling addict, a compulsive gambler, a problem gambler, an addict, whatever you want to call it. But I think you get the sentiment of what I mean. Not someone that can place a bet, engage in gambling based behavior, and it just be something that they could pick up or put down, not be hugely problematic. There are several different addiction definitions. I like the Gabor Mate. I'm not sure that's correct pronunciation. Love the guy, seen him live a couple of times. That is something like, I'm going to butcher it, but it's, addiction is any behavior that you find pleasure in or crave that despite the negative consequences, you still have a great deal of trouble giving up. And that is probably one of the best ones to base this discussion on. It's the negative consequences. It's the fact that it is causing you problems, as they would say in the Gamblers Anonymous community. Life is becoming unmanageable, or has become unmanageable, but yet there is no capacity to stop. There are questions that you can ask yourself online as the classic Gamblers Anonymous, like the 20 questions. Have you ever stolen money to fuel your gambling habit? Have you ever lied, manipulated, taken time off work, etc., etc. And that kind of stuff I think can be very good. It can be quite good if you're looking for a steer, but in my personal experience, and this probably won't be the case for everyone, it's one of those things I think you know when you know. And if you are brutally honest with yourself, there is only so long from the point in which you know within the fibre of your being and your heart to which you don't acknowledge it or publicly declare it or whatever, but actively seek recovery with it. Because I lied to myself for years, and I don't think anybody has their first bad experience of gambling, i.e. a longer period of time at a casino, for example, than they forecasted, or more money than they would have planned to budget, and then just think, no, that's it, yeah, I've got a problem with this, never again, let's seek help, let's go and recover. I think it is something that accumulates, and it takes X number of those events, which varies from person to person, to happen for you to then kind of truly acknowledge it. But it is important that you do. It is important that you do, because it is uncomfortable at first, I would say, to not only from a third party perspective of saying it out loud in front of people or telling someone, even if it's a significant other, a best mate, a parent, a sibling, whatever. But there is that part of your brain that just rationalizes. And as human beings, we are incredibly rationalizing creatures. And it's easy to pin it to circumstance of, oh yeah, but this was just tonight because I got a little bit drunk that I did this, extra hour in the casino than I would normally would, or, I've had a good month sales commission, so it's kind of okay that I've lost 70% of my wages to gambling and I've been doing it every day for the last 20. It is, when I think back, I think it was it wasn't so much like a light switch moment of, right, after today, I definitely know I'm a problem gambler. It was more like a dimmer knob that just accumulated over the time. I was the frog in the boiling water. I use that analogy a lot on this channel. It's fictitious, but you put a frog in a boiling water, it doesn't like the temperature, it jumps straight out. You put it in room temperature water and just slowly turn the dial up. It doesn't notice the contrast, and you can kill it, it dies. I don't advocate doing that, by the way, but it's more of just a metaphor for death by 1,000 cuts, I suppose, is what I'm looking to kind of say. And I think for me, it was, I started to know deep down, and there was a gap between when I knew deep down, the rationalization continued. I don't think that's uncommon. I think that's very common, actually. And usually, as is said, often in addiction, it takes some form of rock bottom moment, whatever that looks like to you. One person's is rock bottom is not another person's, or just to pardon my French, fuck it, I've had enough. I am at the point of despair where enough already, you know, that is enough emotional leverage, enough pain, I've reached enough pain within me that actually it's whatever the other side of this looks like, it cannot be any more uncomfortable than how this is now. So I'm in so much pain, I want to take the B option, you know, even though it's uncertain, even though I don't know what that looks like, it just cannot be any worse than what I'm feeling at the moment. And I think it's something, in some ways this video isn't helpful because it's something that only kind of you know, and I think something else I want to kind of say on this is that, and I fell into this trap a little bit, there is the macho bravado, almost like diminishing your own efforts. So say, for example, you've lost X sum of money. It's very, very easy to go online or go on Reddit or look for a case where someone has lost 10 times that amount of money. And then you can say, oh, well, I'm not like him or her, so maybe I'm not that bad. You know, I think they actually call it like gambling loss porn, that you can look up the most amount of money people have lost in casinos in a 24-hour period, or, you know, the biggest bets, unsuccessful bets that have ever been placed. And you can definitely, you know, soothe yourself and make yourself feel better by thinking, well, I'm not as bad as them. You know, and then you'll see comments on Instagram, TikTok videos where people have been quite vulnerable about their gambling, and it will be, you know, some idiot saying like, oh, most gamblers just quit before they win big, you know, that kind of thing, which is obviously, you know, a not particularly appropriate joke for someone that does struggle with addiction. But you can kind of play with that idea of, well, actually, you know, I'm in this much debt, but I could probably, with the right scratch card result or with the right 7-team accumulator result, I could probably get myself out of this. And then I wouldn't be in any debt at all. And then if I'm not in any debt, then I can't be a problem gambler because I'm not like those others. And that, I suppose, is the main point of this video. I think, you know, comparison is there's a lot of negatives to comparison in multiple different walks of life. But this is one where you can really use it as a way to minimize, kind of generalize, self-soothe, cope, you know, your way through the negative emotions. So don't fall into that trap. If you feel like you are a problem gambler, you know, there are lots of helpful resources out there. It is well worth taking a journey to look at your relationship with yourself, your inner psychology, understanding your brain, understanding addiction. You know, get curious with those kind of things. Don't think of it as I'm an inferior person if I've got all of this. You know, I made another video that says you should be grateful for your gambling addiction. I do and I don't mean that, but what I'm getting at with that is often addiction can give you a certain level of introspection that you just don't get in day-to-day life. So if you are someone that's struggling, try and see the upside of learning more about the human brain and human body, and realize the wonderful life that you can have ahead of you when you do proactively choose to recover. So I hope that helps. I always say I make these videos for a younger version of myself with slightly abstract thoughts around my own personal experience and recovery for addiction. I find them incredibly therapeutic to make. If you know anyone that would benefit from this kind of topic videos, please share it with them. If you can like the videos, subscribe, it just helps me support the channel to reach more people and get this message out there that I'm incredibly passionate about. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video very soon.